They didn't show up for my promotion ceremony the day I spent 10 years earning, but the next morning, Mom texted, "Need 10K for the roof? It's leaking bad." The bank called an hour later. Someone had just applied for a credit line in my name. I knew exactly who. Just didn't think they'd go this far. I'd saved them from credit card debt, from property tax penalties. They couldn't save me from an empty row of chairs on the biggest day of my life. This time, instead of sending money, I sent something else: a contract, a file folder, and a plan that would make them reconsider their definition of family. My name is Natalie Brooks, and I've worn many uniforms in my 32 years: daughter, sister, wife, mother. But the one I'd worked hardest for was the captain's insignia I was about to receive at the Great Lakes State Defense Guard Armory in Harbor Ridge, Michigan. The ceremony hall smelled like floor wax and old coffee, the kind of authentic military atmosphere you can't fake. Rows of metal folding chairs faced the podium where Colonel Martinez would pin my new rank. I'd reserved 4 seats in the front row: Mom, Dad, my sister Mallory, and an extra one for Leo's backpack since my 8-year-old son insisted on bringing his entire collection of Captain America comics to Mom's captain party. Leo sat beside me in the staging area, swinging his legs in his little suit. "Where's Grandma?" he asked for the 3rd time. "They're probably just stuck in traffic, buddy." The lie came easier than admitting the truth I already knew. My phone screen showed 3 unread messages, all variations of, "Sorry, something came up." When they called my name, I walked to that podium with my shoulders back and my eyes forward, refusing to look at those 4 empty chairs. The flash from the official photographer caught me mid-salute, and I wondered if he could see what I was trying so hard to hide, that after 10 years of night classes, weekend drills, deployments that meant missing Leo's first steps in words, the people who should have been proudest weren't there. Colonel Martinez shook my hand. "Your family must be so proud, Captain Brooks." "Yes, sir," I said, because what else could you say? The reception afterward was supposed to be my moment. I'd paid for the sheet cake myself, vanilla with buttercream roses, 'cause Mom always said red velvet was too much. My squad surrounded me with congratulations, their spouses taking pictures, their kids chasing each other around the drill floor. Leo had fallen asleep on 2 pushed-together chairs, chocolate frosting smeared on his cheek. I was wrapping up leftover cake when Sergeant Williams approached. "Hey, Cap, saw your folks in town about an hour ago." They were loading some kind of party equipment into Mallory's car outside that new rental on Shoreline Drive. My hands stilled on the aluminum foil. Shoreline Drive, where Mallory had been setting up her illegal Airbnb. "Must have been someone else," I said. "Maybe. Though your mom's pretty hard to mistake with that silver Mercedes." The drive home felt longer than usual. Leo slept in his booster seat while I played back every excuse they'd made. Dad's supposed emergency plumbing issue, Mom's severe migraine, Mallory's work crisis, which was rich considering she hadn't held a steady job since graduating from art school 6 years ago. I carried Leo to bed, still in his tiny suit, and sat in my kitchen staring at my phone. The timestamp on Mom's first sorry message, 2:43 p.m., the exact time my ceremony had started. At 11:17 p.m., I finally responded to their texts with 2 words: "It's fine," because that's what I always said. That's what good daughters, responsible sisters, reliable ATMs said. The next morning at 6:22 a.m., before I'd even made Leo's breakfast, my phone buzzed. "Mom," not "congratulations on your promotion," or "sorry we missed it," or even "how was the ceremony?" Just, "Natalie, honey, need you to wire $10,000 today. Roof is leaking badly and the contractor can only hold this price until 5 p.m. You know we wouldn't ask if it wasn't urgent." I stared at that message while Leo's frozen waffles turned cold on the counter. $10,000, the exact amount of my promotion bonus, the money I'd earmarked for Leo's college fund. "Mom, are you okay?" Leo had wandered into the kitchen, rubbing his eyes. "Yeah, baby, just fine." But I wasn't. because for the first time in my life, I was done being fine. Growing up in Maple Glen, I learned early that love in the Brooks family had a price tag, and I was the one expected to pay it. Mallory got the dance lessons, the art camps, the study abroad semester in Paris. I got the paper route at 12, the dishwashing job at 14, the double shifts at Target through high school. Natalie's so responsible. Mom would brag to her book club friends. She's always been independent. Not like Mallory, she's our creative one. She needs nurturing. Translation. Natalie pays her way. Mallory gets paid for. I enlisted right after high school while Mallory went to art school $40,000 a year for her to find herself. I found myself in supply logistics courses and deployment prep. When I came home from my first deployment, Mallory had dropped out and was exploring multimedia installations, which meant making TikToks from our parents' basement. The requests started small. Just until I get back on my feet, Dad said when he needed $3,000 for a tax penalty he'd ignored. You know how forgetful I get with paperwork. I knew he'd forgotten because he'd been too busy driving Mallory to another failed job interview in the Mercedes they'd leased for her professional image. Then came the divorce. Mine, not theirs. When Derek left me for his CrossFit instructor taking his salary but leaving his credit card debt, I moved back to Michigan with Leo. Then 3. Within a month, I was covering Mom's overdue property taxes. Just this once, honey, the pandemic really hurt Dad's consulting business. Dad hadn't had a real client in 2 years. His consulting was playing golf with other semi-retired men who called themselves entrepreneurs. The emergency fund had been my idea, pitched as family insurance after the third financial crisis in 6 months. We'll all contribute, Mom promised. Equal shares, equal access. I deposited $500 monthly. They deposited promises. Mallory's going through a rough patch, Mom explained when my sister's contribution never materialized. You know how hard it is for artists. I knew how hard it was to be a single mom working full-time while drilling 1 weekend a month, but apparently that didn't qualify as artistic suffering. The account sat at $18,000 all mine when Mom suggested adding her and Dad as co-signers. For emergencies only. You travel so much with the Guard. Honey, what if something happened and we needed to help with Leo? I should have known. Should have seen it when Mallory suddenly had a small business opportunity that required just a tiny loan from the family fund. Should have noticed when Mom's emergency dental work coincided with their anniversary cruise to Bermuda. But I was deployed to Eastern Europe for 3 weeks, managing supply chains for NATO exercises, and came back to find $6,000 gone. Repairs, the memo line said. Always repairs, never receipts. The water heater exploded. Mom explained over dinner at their house, the house with the brand new kitchen backsplash. You weren't answering your phone. I'd been in a classified briefing. Leo had been with my neighbor. They'd been at Home Goods buying decorative pillows. The pattern was so established I could predict it. Crisis text. Urgent timeline. Emotional manipulation about family helping family. Money transferred. Problem mysteriously less severe than described. No discussion of repayment. Mallory's credit card debt. She's trying so hard to get established. Dad's boat storage fees. You know how much that boat means to him. Mom's spa weekend presented as medical treatment for her stress. $23,000 over 4 years. I kept a spreadsheet they didn't know about, hidden in a folder labeled Leo Medical Records. Every transfer, every excuse, every broken promise to pay back. The weekend before my promotion ceremony, Mallory had called crying. Her car was being repossessed. Could I just cover 3 months of payments? I promise I'll come to your ceremony. I know how important it is. I'd sent $2,800 on Thursday. They'd skipped my ceremony on Saturday. The math was simple, even if the heartbreak was complicated. Looking at Mom's text about the roof, I did what I hadn't done in years. I scrolled up through our message history. 217 conversations about money, 14 about Leo, 3 about my deployment, 1 about the promotion, my telling her about it, her responding with, "That's nice, honey." Mom, why are you crying? Leo stood in the doorway with his waffle syrup dripping onto his dinosaur pajamas. I'm not crying, baby, just tired eyes. But I was done being tired. Done being the family ATM with a heartbeat. This time would be different. This time, I'd make them pay. The first call I made was to Brennan Roofing, the company whose truck I'd seen in my parents' neighborhood for 20 years. Sorry, Ms. Brooks. We haven't had any calls from Judith or Raymond Brooks. No estimates scheduled either. I'd remember your mom always asks for Frank specifically. 2 more contractors. Same story. Harbor Ridge Exteriors hadn't heard from them. Premier Home Services had no record of any Brooks in their system for the past 18 months. I pulled up the City of Maple Glen permit portal on my laptop while Leo watched cartoons. Public records were beautiful things. Every construction permit, every inspection, every variance request, all searchable by address. Their house at 47 Willowbrook Lane showed nothing since a fence permit in 2019. Leo, we're going to see Grandma and Grandpa. Are they sick? Something like that. The drive to Maple Glen took 35 minutes, long enough to notice things I'd been too busy to see before. Like how their emergency roof leak hadn't affected the new solar panels installed last month. Solar panels I hadn't known about until I spotted them gleaming in the Saturday morning sun. I parked down the street, letting Leo play on my phone while I walked around the house. The roof looked pristine. No tarps, no visible damage, no water stains on the exterior walls. I took 17 photos from different angles, making sure to capture the timestamp from my phone's camera app. Back home, I finally opened the emergency fund account online. The balance should have been $18,000. It showed $12,400. My stomach turned as I scrolled through the transactions. ATM withdrawal $300. Hardware supplies. Point of sale $450. Roofing materials at Victoria's Wine Bar transfer $800 to M. Brooks. Roof consultation. The withdrawals went back 6 weeks. Small enough to avoid triggering the fraud alerts, frequent enough to drain nearly $6,000, all with vague construction-related memos that would look legitimate to anyone not paying attention. My phone rang. The bank. Ms. Brooks, we're calling to verify a recent application for a home equity line of credit. The application lists you as co-owner of the property at 47 Willowbrook Lane. I don't own that property. That's my parents' house. I see. The application has your social security number and claims you're on the deed as of last month. Should we flag this as potential fraud? My hand gripped the phone so tight my knuckles went white. Yes, please flag it. And can you email me a copy of that application? The email came through in minutes. There it was, my forged signature, my social security number, my supposed agreement to leverage my parents' house for a $50,000 credit line. The contact phone number listed Mom's cell. I called my cousin Janet, who worked at a title company. Can you run a quick search on Mom and Dad's property? I need to know if my name appears anywhere. Give me 10 minutes. 8 minutes later. Natalie, did you know there was a quitclaim deed filed last month adding you to the title, your signature's on it? I hadn't signed anything, but there it was, notarized by someone I'd never heard of, filed electronically on a day I'd been in a guard training exercise with 40 witnesses. The pieces clicked together like supply crates in a loading bay. Add me to the deed without my knowledge. Apply for credit in my name. Use the house as collateral. Take the money. Leave me liable for the debt. I pulled up Mallory's Instagram. Her business account for the Airbnb, she swore she wasn't running. Posted yesterday, major upgrades coming to Shoreline Sanctuary. New rooftop deck installation starts Monday. Airbnb superhost Dar Michigan Getaway, our luxury rentals. The comments were gold. Finally, the last review mentioned the deck needed work. Can't wait to see the hot tub you mentioned. Will you have the rope lights installed by Memorial Day weekend? I screenshotted everything. Then I checked the county's short-term rental registry. No license for Mallory Brooks or the Shoreline Drive address. The city required permits, inspections, and hotel taxes for any rental under 30 days. She was operating illegally, renovating without permits, and funding it all with money stolen from my emergency fund. My phone buzzed. Mom, again. Did you get my message about the roof? Really need that transfer by 5 p.m. today. The contractor won't wait. I texted back, which contractor I'd like their license number for my records. 3 dots appeared and disappeared 4 times before her response. Why are you being difficult? Family helps family. Family helps family. The Brooks family motto. Translation. Natalie helps everyone. Everyone helps themselves. Not anymore. I opened a new spreadsheet and titled it Evidence. Then I started documenting everything, every transaction, every permit search, every screenshot, every forged signature. By noon, I had enough to bury them. By 1 p.m., I had a plan to do exactly that. The first stop was the police station, not to file charges yet, but to create a paper trail. I need to file an identity theft report, I told Officer Daniels, who'd gone to high school with me. Someone's applied for credit using my social security number without my authorization. He took my statement, documented the fraudulent HELOC application, and gave me a case number. You know who did this. I have suspicions. Family stuff is always the hardest. He'd seen enough to recognize the pattern. This report will help you freeze everything. You'll want to contact all 3 credit bureaus. By 2 p.m., I'd placed fraud alerts with Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. Full credit freeze activated. Anyone trying to open accounts in my name would hit a wall. The alerts would last 7 years longer than any roof repair. Next came the emergency fund. I drove to Harbor Ridge Credit Union where Sheila, the branch manager, knew me by name. I need to remove the cosigners from this account and transfer everything except $100 to a new individual account. Having some issues, she asked carefully. Fingers already typing, preventing future ones. The new account was mine alone, different account number, different login, different everything. The $100 left behind bait. Every attempt to access it would be logged, documented, and reported. For Leo, I opened a 529 education savings plan with myself as the sole custodian. These accounts had federal protections. Early withdrawals carried 10% penalties plus income tax. I deposited my entire promotion bonus, $10,000 my parents thought was coming their way. Then came the hard part, the contract. I'd learned enough about military contracts to know what made them ironclad. Clear terms, specific penalties, no room for interpretation. I opened my laptop and started typing personal loan agreement. This agreement, dated I, is between Natalie Brooks lender and Judith Brooks, Raymond Brooks borrowers. Loan terms. Principal amount $10,000, interest rate 7% annually. Repayment schedule $200 month for 60 months. First payment due June 1st, 2025. Collateral 2021 Cadillac Escalade. VIN. Registered to Judith and Raymond Brooks. Conditions for loan approval. Borrowers must attend Natalie Brooks' next promotion ceremony date. TBD. Borrowers must provide valid roofing contractor license and permit numbers. Borrowers must allow property inspection to verify damage. Borrowers must attend 6 family counseling sessions. Default consequences. Immediate acceleration of full balance. Transfer of debt to professional collection agency. Execution of lien against collateral vehicle. Filing of small claims. Court action report to credit bureaus. Special provisions. Any attempt to use lender's identity, credit, or social security number for financial purposes will result in immediate default and criminal fraud charges. I printed 3 copies on the good paper I used for military documents. Official, serious, binding. The doorbell camera app on my phone dinged. Motion detected at my front door. Mom stood there, looking around nervously before ringing the bell. I watched her on the live feed but didn't answer. Let her wonder where I was. Let her feel what it was like to be ignored on an important day. She left after 5 minutes, and I saw her text immediately. Came by to talk. Where are you? Time is running out on the contractor's offer. I responded with a photo of a single dollar bill and this message: initial payment sent to emergency fund. Full amount available pending completion of attached agreement and verification documents. Then I attached the contract. My phone exploded within 30 seconds. Mom calling, Dad calling. Mallory texting in all caps. I declined every call and muted the group messages. Instead, I called Mike Torres, a guard buddy who worked as a paralegal. Mike, I need you to notarize something for me, and maybe witness a family meeting that might get ugly. How ugly we talking? I'm holding my parents' car as collateral for a loan they're trying to force me into through identity theft. Jesus. Yeah, I'll be there. When? Tomorrow, 2 p.m., my parents' house. I'll bring my stamp and my body cam. The last call of the day was to Dr. Patricia Reeves, a family therapist who specialized in financial abuse. I need to book 6 sessions, possibly for 3 adults who don't think they need therapy. Are you requiring therapy as a condition for something? Her voice held no judgment, just curiosity. For a loan that they claim is for emergency roof repairs. That doesn't need repairs. I have Saturdays at 10 a.m. First session can be this week. Perfect. I booked all 6 sessions, paid in advance, and added the receipt to my evidence folder. That night, Leo and I ate pizza and watched movies. My phone sat silent on the counter. Dozens of messages piling up unread. For the first time in years, I wasn't jumping to respond to their crisis. Mom, you're smiling weird, Leo said, cheese stringing from his chin. Just happy, baby. Because we're having pizza, because we're setting boundaries. What's that mean? It means knowing when to say no. At exactly 5 p.m., I sent one final text to the family group. Contractor's deadline has passed. New terms are in the contract. Meeting tomorrow at 2 p.m. to discuss. Bring your proof of roof damage or don't come at all. Then I turned off my phone and helped Leo build the Lego set I'd been saving for a special occasion. Today, qualified, Mike Torres and I arrived at my parents' house at 1:55 p.m. His body cam was clipped to his shirt pocket, recording everything. I carried a folder containing the contract, the fraudulent HELOC application, screenshots of the emergency fund withdrawals, and photos of their pristine roof. Mom answered the door wearing her company's coming smile that flickered when she saw Mike. Who's this? My legal witness. Mike Torres, notary public and paralegal. The smile died completely. Natalie, this is a family matter. Identity theft is a federal crime. Mrs. Brooks, Mike said pleasantly. I'm here to ensure everyone's interests are protected. The living room had been staged like an intervention in reverse. Dad sat in his recliner, trying to project patriarchal authority. Mallory sprawled on the couch, arms crossed, her boyfriend Tyler beside her looking confused. They'd arranged the furniture so I'd have to sit in the low chair by the window the kids' spot, where I'd always been told to sit during family discussions. I remained standing. Let's start with the roof, I said, pulling out my phone. Here are 17 photos I took yesterday. No damage, no leaks, no repairs needed. But here's Mallory's Instagram announcing a rooftop deck installation at her illegal Airbnb starting Monday. You spied on us, Mallory shrieked. I investigated fraud. There's a difference. I turned to Tyler. Did you know she's been using money meant for emergency roof repairs to build your rental property, the one that isn't licensed, permitted, or zoned for short-term rentals? Tyler's head swiveled toward Mallory. You said your parents were investors. They are? She grabbed his arm. They're investing in our future. With my money. I clarified. $6,000 drained from an emergency fund over 6 weeks. Here are the withdrawal records. Notice how roofing supplies were purchased at wine bars and furniture stores. Mom stood up, switching to damage control mode. Natalie, honey, there's been a misunderstanding. Was it a misunderstanding when you applied for a $50,000 home equity line using my social security number? I held up the HELOC application. Or when you forged my signature on a quitclaim deed to add me to your property title without my knowledge? Dad's face went pale. We never... Page 3, bottom signature, that's supposed to be mine. Except I was at Fort Custer that day, running supply drills. Here's my training roster with 40 witnesses who can verify my location. Mike stepped forward. For the record, filing a false deed is a felony in Michigan, up to 14 years in prison. The room went silent except for Tyler pulling his arm away from Mallory. But family helps family. Right. I continued. So I'm offering you a choice. Option 1. Sign this loan agreement. $10,000 at 7% interest, with specific conditions including attending my next promotion ceremony and 6 sessions of family therapy. Therapy. Dad's voice cracked. We don't need option 2. I interrupted. I file criminal charges for identity theft and fraud. I pursue the fraudulent HELOC with the bank's legal department. I report the illegal Airbnb to the city, which carries fines up to $500 per day of operation. And I initiate collection proceedings for the $6,000 already stolen from the emergency fund. I pulled out my phone and showed them a drafted email to the county prosecutor. 1 click, and this goes to people who won't care that we shared DNA. You wouldn't dare, Mom whispered. I wouldn't have before. But you missed my promotion ceremony to set up furniture for Mallory's illegal business. You've stolen my identity, drained my savings, and had the audacity to ask for more while my son and I live paycheck to paycheck. My voice stayed steady, professional, military. I'm done being your safety net while you treat me like I don't exist except when you need money. Tyler stood up. I need to leave. Baby, wait! Mallory grabbed for him. You told me this was all legitimate, legal, that your parents were business partners. He looked at me. Is any of her rental legal? No permits, no license, no tax payments. The city could shut it down tomorrow and fine her thousands. He walked out. Mallory started crying the dramatic, gasping sobs that usually got her what she wanted. Look what you've done! Mom rushed to comfort her. What I've done? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. I've spent $73,000 over 10 years bailing this family out. I have the spreadsheet, every payment, every emergency, every loan that was never repaid. $73,000 while being told I'm selfish for not giving more. I pulled out the contract and placed it on the coffee table with a pen. Sign it, or I file charges. You have 5 minutes to decide. This is extortion, Dad said. No, Mike corrected. Extortion would be threatening to expose a secret unless paid. Captain Brooks is offering a legitimate loan with terms as an alternative to pursuing legal remedies for actual crimes. Very different things. Mom picked up the contract, hands shaking. The therapy sessions, non-negotiable. Dr. Patricia Reeves, Saturdays at 10 a.m. First session is this Saturday. But Mallory has Airbnb guests. Then she better start actually fixing that roof she claims needs repair. I pulled out photos from the city website. By the way, here's what actual roof damage looks like. Water stains, missing shingles, visible holes. Should I call your insurance company to ask about your claim? I'm sure they'd love to see these photos of your perfect roof. The 5 minutes felt like hours. Finally. Dad signed. Mom followed, tears streaming down her face like I was the one who'd wronged her. Mallory refused until Mom hissed something about jail time. Mike notarized every signature, took photos of all documents, and made copies on their printer. As we left, Mom called out, I hope you're happy. I turned at the door. I'm not happy, but for the first time in my life, I'm not ashamed of being your daughter. I'm ashamed you're my mother. The text came Thursday morning while I was reviewing supply manifests at the armory. Family meeting Sunday at 4 p.m. Important announcement, Mallory's treating everyone to dinner after Don't Be Late. Mom's exclamation points were working overtime to sell this as a celebration. The heart emoji was a nice touch. She'd learned those from Mallory's Instagram tutorials. I knew exactly what this was, a public ambush disguised as a party. Make nice in front of relatives. Pressure me to forgive the debt, probably with tears and a speech about how family means everything. I texted back, I'll be there. Then I made 3 phone calls. First, to Jim Crawford, the insurance adjuster who'd evaluated storm damage claims in Harbor Ridge for 15 years. Jim, hypothetically, if someone claimed roof damage but hadn't filed an insurance claim, what would that suggest? Either they're lying about the damage or committing insurance fraud by not reporting it. Most policies require notification within 30 days of discovering damage. Would you be willing to stop by a property Sunday around 4:30 p.m.? Paid consultation. Of course. Text me the address. Second, call Sandra at the Maple Glen Building Department. Can you email me the requirements for rooftop deck construction permits, inspections, contractor licenses, the works, planning something, preventing something illegal? I'll include the fine schedule. It's steep. We've been cracking down on unpermitted Airbnb modifications. Third, call Dr. Patricia Reeves. Our first family session is Saturday. What are the odds they'll actually show? In my experience, low, but document their absence. It matters for your boundaries. I spent Friday preparing a presentation, not PowerPoint that was too corporate. This needed the weight of legal documentation. I created a bound packet for each family member. Page 1, the signed loan agreement. Page 2, emergency fund withdrawal history. Page 3, city requirements for rooftop deck permits. Page 4, screenshots of Mallory's Airbnb advertising, coming improvements. Page 5, insurance fraud statute highlights. Page 6, identity theft police report. Page 7, credit freeze confirmations. Page 8, the therapy session schedule with Dr. Reeves's cancellation policy. I printed 5 copies on resume paper. Official, undeniable. Sunday arrived gray and drizzling, perfect weather for what was coming. Leo was at a friend's birthday party, safely away from whatever drama would unfold. I arrived at 4 p.m. exactly, carrying my packets and wearing my Class B uniform, not required for a family dinner, but I wanted the visual reminder of who I'd become without their support. The house was fuller than expected. Aunt Sharon and Uncle Pete, cousins Janet and Marcus, Mallory's friends Brittany and Jessica. Even our elderly neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, who Mom only invited to things when she needed witnesses to her generosity. The dining table was set with Mom's wedding china. A congratulations banner hung across the archway, no specification for what we were celebrating. The whole scene reeked of manipulation. "Natalie's here," Mom announced like I was the guest of honor at my own execution. "Doesn't she look wonderful in her uniform?" The compliment felt like acid. 3 weeks ago, she couldn't be bothered to see me wear it at my actual ceremony. "What are we celebrating?" Aunt Sharon asked. "Mallory's business expansion." Mom beamed. "She's adding a gorgeous rooftop deck to her rental property. Premium rates for premium amenities." "How wonderful," Mrs. Patterson said. "Is it permitted? My grandson got in terrible trouble for unpermitted deck work." The room tensed. This was my opening. "Actually, that's a great question." I started distributing my packets. "Since we're celebrating Mallory's business, everyone should know the facts." "Natalie, this isn't the time," Dad warned. Page 3 shows the city requirements for rooftop construction. Permit, licensed contractor, engineering report for load-bearing capacity, neighbor notification. Mallory, which of these have you completed? She went red. We're working on it. Page 4 shows your Instagram posts promising installation starting tomorrow. Hard to work on permits retroactively. Mom stood up. "Natalie, you're ruining..." Page 5 outlines insurance fraud penalties, claiming roof damage that doesn't exist, or failing to report actual damage to insurance. Both qualify. So which is it? Is there damage you haven't reported, or no damage at all? The doorbell rang. Perfect timing. That'll be Jim Crawford from Hartford Insurance Adjusters. I smiled. I hired him to assess the supposed roof damage. Jim's evaluated every storm claim in the county for 15 years. Dad blocked the door. "We didn't authorize I did as a named party on the property per the fraudulent quitclaim deed you filed. Page 6 shows the police report about that. By the way, Mike Torres had been right. Being illegally added to the deed gave me certain inspection rights until it was resolved." Jim entered with professional confidence, introduced himself, and headed straight outside with his ladder and camera. The room watched through the window as he methodically photographed every inch of the roof. "While he works," I continued, "let's discuss the therapy requirement. First session was yesterday at 10 a.m. I was there. Dr. Reeves was there. You weren't." Mallory had guests checking in. Mom started. Page 8 shows the $150 no-show fee you now owe Dr. Reeves, times 3 of you. That's on top of the loan payments. Jessica whispered to Brittany, both typing on their phones, probably checking if Mallory's rental was even legal. Aunt Sharon was reading the packet with raised eyebrows. Jim came back inside, tablet in hand. In my professional opinion, this roof has 0 damage requiring repair. It's actually in excellent condition. Those solar panels are new, professionally installed. If someone filed an insurance claim stating otherwise, that would constitute fraud. He handed me his business card in front of everyone. My full report will be emailed within an hour. I've included photos with timestamps. The room was silent as he left. Mallory was crying again, but quietly this time. Real tears, not performance. I stood to leave. The loan agreement stands. First payment due June 1st. Therapy next Saturday. And Mallory. I looked directly at her. The city will be conducting random inspections of Shoreline Drive properties next week. Might want to cancel those improvements. You called them, she gasped. I didn't have to. Turns out Tyler's father is on the city planning commission. He was very interested to learn about his son's involvement with an illegal rental. I headed for the door, then turned back. Oh, and the emergency fund, I left $100 in it. Someone tried to withdraw $40 yesterday at 3:15 p.m. The attempt was logged, recorded, and reported to my fraud case file. Mom's hand went to her purse involuntarily. Enjoy your celebration dinner, I said. I'm taking my son for ice cream, with the money I didn't give you. Friday night. Mallory's apology party invitation appeared in my messages. Pool party themed, casual dress, starting at 7 p.m., Saturday. The Facebook event showed 43 invited, 28 confirmed attending. The cover photo was Mallory and me at her college graduation, the one I'd driven 6 hours to attend while 8 months pregnant. I knew this game. Public reconciliation theater where I'd be cornered into forgiving everything while relatives and friends applauded Mallory's maturity in bringing the family together. I RSVP'd yes, then made my own preparations. First, I contacted Channel 7's consumer reporter, David Lang, who'd been investigating illegal short-term rentals. Interested in a live story, homeowner admits to unpermitted renovations in front of 40 witnesses. Text me the address. We'll have a crew nearby. Second, I edited the doorbell camera footage from my promotion ceremony day. The timestamp showed 2:38 p.m., Mom, Dad, and Mallory loading folding chairs and a margarita machine into her SUV. At 2:43 p.m., Mom texted me, "So sorry, emergency came up." At 2:51 p.m., they were toasting with champagne on Mallory's future illegal deck. I uploaded it to a private YouTube link, ready to cast to any smart TV. Saturday arrived humid and heavy, storm clouds building to the west. I dressed carefully sundress over my swimsuit, but underneath, I wore a wire Mike Torres had lent me. Michigan was a one-party consent state for recording. Everything said tonight would be documented. Leo stayed with my neighbor. Be good for Mrs. Chin, I told him. I'll be back soon. Are you going to Grandma's? To Aunt Mallory's? Oh, even my 8-year-old had learned the difference between family and family. The party was in full swing when I arrived at 7:15. Mallory's rental house was packed, guests spilling onto the deck that would soon be illegally expanded. A banner read, "Family First, Always," in glittery letters. Mom greeted me with a performance hug, whispering, "Just play along." I smiled and whispered back, "No." The first hour was typical party noise. I nursed a sealed water bottle, deflected questions about the family misunderstanding, and waited. At 8:20 p.m., Mallory clinked a fork against her wine glass. Everyone, thank you for coming to celebrate family. She was 3 drinks in, minimum. Some of you know we've had some challenges lately, but that's what family does. We work through things. Applause. Mom wiped away a staged tear. Natalie, Mallory turned to me. I want to publicly apologize. I know I haven't been the best sister, and that thing with the roof, That was wrong. More applause. Someone shouted, "That's beautiful." So, she continued, pulling out a folder, "I want to make things right. I have here a payment plan for the family fund and a power of attorney form so you can help manage my business properly." The crowd awed. She wanted me to manage her illegal business. Make me complicit. Genius. Really. "That's so generous," I said loudly. "Before I sign anything, though, everyone should know the full story. Jim, you can come in now." Jim Crawford entered through the side gate, carrying his inspection tablet. "Sorry to interrupt. Ms. Brooks, you asked me to present my roof assessment. The professional assessment confirms no roof damage exists or existed. The $10,000 requested was for this." I gestured to the deck where we stood. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "But that's not all." I pulled out my phone, casting to Mallory's smart TV visible through the sliding doors. "This is security footage from my promotion ceremony." The video played. Date and time clear. My family loading party supplies while I was being promoted to captain. They chose setting up this party venue over attending the ceremony I worked 10 years to achieve. Gasps. Actual, genuine gasps. Mom rushed forward. "Natalie, stop this! Like you stopped yourselves from filing a fraudulent deed in my name." I held up the document. "Or applying for credit using my social security number." What the hell? That was Cousin Marcus, who worked in banking. That's identity theft. "Page 1 of the police report," I said, pulling copies from my bag and passing them around. "Page 2 is the fraudulent loan application. Page 3 is the quitclaim deed I never signed." Mallory grabbed the microphone from her karaoke machine. "She's lying. She's just jealous because..." "Because what? Because you got dance lessons while I got 3 jobs. Because you got a graduation party while I got deployed. Because you got bailed out of $60,000 in debt while I got my identity stolen." Thunder rumbled overhead. The storm was coming. "I have a contract," I announced, holding it up. "Signed by all 3 of them. $10,000 loan for the roof that doesn't need repair. Conditions include therapy. They refuse to attend, and attending military ceremonies they consider inconvenient." Mrs. Patterson spoke up. "Judith, is this true? You missed her promotion. Mom's mask finally cracked. She's always been dramatic, acting like she's better than us with her military career. The military career that pays for your emergencies." I pulled out my spreadsheet. $73,000 over 10 years. Every transfer documented. Tyler appeared at the gate apparently. He'd been invited too. With him was a man in a city inspector windbreaker. "Ms. Mallory Brooks." The inspector stepped forward. "Thomas Wade, City Planning. We received multiple reports of unpermitted construction and illegal short-term rental operation. I need to see your permits." "This is a private party," Mallory shrieked, "on a property advertised on Airbnb, which makes it commercial. Permits, please." The crowd was backing away now, heading for exits. The party collapsed in real time. "You did this," Mom pointed at me. "You ruined everything." "No," I said calmly. "You did this when you decided I was worth less than a roof that never leaked. When you stole from an account meant for emergencies to fund a spoiled child's illegal business. When you committed fraud using your own daughter's identity." Lightning flashed. The skies opened. Rain poured down, sending everyone scrambling for cover. I stood there in the downpour, water streaming down my face, and laughed. "Look at that," I called out. "The roof seems to be handling the rain just fine. Guess it didn't need that $10,000 after all." The rain turned the pool party into chaos. Guests ran for their cars, mascara streaming, hair gel dissolving. The city inspector stood under the patio awning, calmly writing citations while Mallory sobbed. Tyler had already left, apparently. He'd only come to retrieve his golf clubs from her garage. Through the sliding glass door, I could see my family huddled inside. Mom was yelling at Dad. Dad was yelling at Mallory. Mallory was yelling at her phone, probably trying to delete Airbnb listings before the inspector could screenshot them. I stood in the rain, feeling cleaner than I had in years. "Natalie." Aunt Sharon appeared beside me with an umbrella. That was brutal. That was necessary. Your mom's my sister, but... She paused. I've watched them bleed you dry for years. Good for you. Honey. The inspector approached us. Ms. Brooks. The other Ms. Brooks. I'll need you to testify about the fraudulent permit applications. Happy to help. He handed Mallory 3 citations through the door. Operating without a business license. Unpermitted commercial use of residential property. Advertising false amenities. Total fines are $8,400. You have 30 days to cease operations or face additional penalties. Mallory threw the papers at Mom. This is your fault. You said Natalie would cave. She always caves. Not anymore, I said, loud enough for everyone inside to hear. Mom rushed out, makeup running in black streams. Please, Natalie, we'll lose everything. You'll lose the SUV if you don't make loan payments. That's what collateral means. But family. Family shows up. Family doesn't steal. Family doesn't forge signatures. I pulled out my phone. Want to see the video again? The one where you're toasting champagne while I'm getting promoted alone. Dad finally emerged. What do you want from us? Nothing. That's the point. For the first time in my life, I want absolutely nothing from you. I turned to leave, then stopped. Actually, no. I want one thing. I want you to remember this moment. Remember standing in the rain while your illegal business gets shut down. Remember losing your daughter because a fake roof was worth more than a real relationship. You'll forgive us, Mom said desperately. You always do. No. I'll collect my loan payments. I'll document your therapy absences. I'll testify when the city prosecutes. But forgive. I shook my head. Forgiveness requires remorse. All you're sorry about is getting caught. My phone buzzed. A text from Leo. Mrs. Chen made cookies. When are you coming home? Home. Where people actually wanted me around. My son's waiting, I announced. Unlike you, I don't disappoint the people who love me. I walked to my car as Channel 7's news van pulled up. David Lang jumped out with his cameraman. Did we miss it? Just in time, I said, pointing to the inspector posting a bright orange cease and desist notice on the door. The homeowner's right inside. As I drove away, I saw Mom in my rearview mirror, trying to block the camera while Mallory screamed about privacy rights. Dad was on his phone, probably calling a lawyer they couldn't afford. 3 weeks later, the first loan payment was due. They missed it. I sent one text. Payment was due yesterday. 7-day grace period before I execute the lien on the Escalade. The payment arrived 6 days later, exactly $199.99. 1 penny short? Petty to the end. I accepted it and documented the shortage. 59 more payments to go. Dr. Reeves called that Saturday. They haven't attended any sessions. I have to close their file for non-compliance. Please send me written documentation of that. Already emailed. The city shut down Mallory's Airbnb permanently after finding 12 code violations. The news story ran with the headline, Family Fraud: How a Roof Repair Scam Exposed an Illegal Rental Empire. David Lang won a local Emmy for investigative reporting. Mom sent one last manipulation attempt a package with my baby photos and a letter about how devastated she was. I returned it unopened with a copy of the contract highlighted at the therapy requirement section. 6 months later, I got promoted to major. The ceremony was smaller this time, just Leo, Aunt Sharon, Mike Torres, and a few guard friends. The front row wasn't empty. It was filled with people who actually wanted to be there. After the ceremony, Leo asked, "Do you miss Grandma and Grandpa?" "I miss who I thought they were," I told him, "but I don't miss who they actually are." "Is that why you made them sign papers?" "No, baby. I made them sign papers because when someone shows you who they really are, you need to believe them, and then you need to protect yourself." He nodded solemnly, then brightened. "Can we get ice cream?" "We can get whatever you want." As we walked to the car, my phone showed 3 missed calls from Mom. I deleted them without listening to the voicemails. Some bridges. once burned, light the way forward. The loan payments arrived monthly, never on time, always a penny short. I documented every single one, not because I needed the money anymore, but because accountability has its own value. They never attended therapy. They never apologized. They never understood that respect can't be withdrawn from an ATM. But I understood something they never would. Family isn't about blood. It's about showing up. And when someone proves they won't show up for you, you stop showing up for them. My bank account grew. My credit score recovered. My son learned that boundaries aren't walls, they're doors. And you get to decide who has the keys. The roof, by the way, still hasn't leaked. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I'd love to know where you're tuning in from. Drop a comment below and let's connect. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts. Have you ever had to set tough boundaries with family? I'd really like to hear your experiences in the comments.